Now we will navigate to Ports and VLANs. Under the VLANs tab, we are going to create a new VLAN. We will create VLAN 2. If you recall, under the IP interfaces tab, we created the layer 3 interface for VLAN 2. Now we're going to create the layer 2 VLAN itself. This is also where you will assign the VLAN as untagged or tagged. You can see the legend in the bottom left that shows how to assign the port. To create the new VLAN, you will click on the add icon. We will create the VLAN ID of 2 and give it a name. We will also assign ports 1 and 2 as untagged, and we will assign port 6 as tagged. Then we will save the setting. Now, when we configure a port as untagged, this means that this port is connecting to a device that is not VLAN aware. This would typically be an end device such as a computer, server, PLC, or HMI. And when we create a port as tagged, this means that this port is connecting to a device that is VLAN aware. This would typically be something inside of your network, such as another switch or a router, something that needs to carry tagged VLANs. Now, if you click on the Advanced tab, this is where you can change the pivot of the port to match the desired VLAN. If you create a new VLAN and want to assign that VLAN to a port, you must make that change under this tab. Here you can also change the VLAN ingress settings. So in this example, we will change the pivot of ports 1 and 2 to VLAN 2. And we will leave port 6 with the pivot of 1. In this example, since port 6 is carrying our tagged VLAN traffic to another segment of our network, we want to keep that as the default VLAN for now. And we will save that setting. So moving on to the link aggregation tab. Under the link aggregation tab, if you click on the groups config, this is where you can configure link aggregation groups for the industry standard protocol, LACP. Here you can see a normal group and 4 link aggregation groups. This means that you can configure up to 4 link aggregation groups, and any port assigned to the normal group will be excluded from any link aggregation group. When you create a link aggregation group, this now gives you an aggregated port bandwidth. So for example, if we put gigabit ports 1 and 2 into a group channel, they will now act as one individual port with a 2 gigabit bandwidth. If one port fails or drops out of the aggregation group, the channel does not go down. It will just drop to a single port with the initial 1 gigabit of bandwidth. When the second port comes back online, the aggregation group will become a 2 gigabit channel again. So under the mode dropdown, this is where you can configure either a static LACP or more of a dynamic LACP using active and passive settings. Now, if this is set to static, then typically you would want the switch on the other end set to static as well. If this switch is set to active, for example, then this switch would actively be looking to establish a link aggregation channel with another switch. So the switch on the other end would need to be set to passive mode. If you leave the port in disabled mode, you can still configure the link aggregation group, but the group will not be currently active. And for now, that will conclude the link aggregation section.